Hello, Endersword here again, this time with a replay that was actually sent in to me by my friends at stickyflames.com. This is from their Bronze, Silver, and Gold League tournament that they do every Monday on Zeek.com at, I think, 9 o'clock EST. The prize for that is actually 1 hour of coaching, which is pretty good. So if you want to get some experience out there just playing in that type of tournament, meant for people in the lower leagues, definitely do that. And if you win, coaching with some form of reputable player, I think it does change who it is, but certainly a great way to get started. They also run gold, platinum, and diamond tournaments on Thursdays, and they do masters tournaments as well that do often have a cash prize to it. So definitely check them out at Zeek.com and stickyflames.com. We are obviously on this map here that makes a lot of people's frame rates angry because of the creep tumors starting off on the islands to the side. We are going to focus on the player Mishka here. These two players, Mishka and Alun, are on the last game of their best of 5 series in this tournament. So this was the finals for this particular tournament up until Gold League. So the things that we're going to focus on in this game, and it is kind of a neat one, are number one, you want to take good risks, but not blind risks. So there are definitely times in this game that you're kind of going to take a chance, going to do something either cheesy or do something all in, or just do a strategy that if it doesn't work, you're going to fail. But you don't want to be doing that completely blindly with no actual information about what's going on, and we're kind of going to see that happen in this game. Second thing that we're going to look at is the idea, obviously everyone should know this, but build orders really do matter, particularly if you're going to do a specific thing. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. Cybernetics core goes down, and then the assimilator goes down. When you're going to be launching into a specific type of timing or attack that you're planning on, something like that matters. This cybernetics core is going to finish and be sitting there before we actually have enough gas to either make a unit out of it or make a or start the warp gate upgrade. So even though we're starting to mine gas now, we only actually have 16 at the time that this is done. So you want to time some of these things out a little better, and it's not like he's going right to Robotech or something that needed this cyber core. It's just built at a wrong time. So if you're planning an attack that you kind of know that you want to use often, do try and refine that sort of thing out. The third thing that we're going to look at is how to recover with a plan. So when you do get behind your opponent, or when you're just kind of wiped out or reset a lot of your technology, reset a lot of your worker count, anything like that, you don't want to just go back to the point that you were. A lot of people just recover to defend themselves quickly. You want to make sure that you're still progressing forward on your tech and that you actually have some sort of plan in mind of when you're going to be okay again, or what long shot you could actually go for in order to move the game forward. So what we see here is actually a bit of what looks at this point like a 4-gate opening. However, he's not quite done with that. There's, you can see Chrono Boost going down on the warp gate technology. But again, we were late on getting that even started. Had the assimilator been started a little earlier, then we could have gotten this out anyway a bit faster than it was actually out, even without having to use as many of the chronos as we do here. And you're still not behind in any of your timing, or you can use the chronos anyway and get even more ahead. So when you're going towards a specific timing attack, and even though this started to look like a 4-gate, it's actually not going to be one. There's no proxy pylon down in place. We kind of are warping in here, turning everything into warp gates, but we're still adding 2 gateways on. So was there any particular need to make sure that this was done so quickly? It may have made more sense to chrono out individual units that you want onto the map, allow the warp gate technology to finish by itself, line it up more with the completion of these 2 gateways. When they're actually out, surely he's not planning on building a lot more than 6 gateways off one base. So where's the pylon? Where's the attack point? Only here is everything is essentially done is he now actually moving out? So you want to be anticipating that this is what I'm actually going to do. When my 6 gateways are ready, you're not going to be able to really support these 6 gateways off one base anyway. You can usually really only support 4 when you're going for kind of a quicker warp in. But he's just behind here. So if you're not going to make this big burst of an attack, then you don't really want to be making this attack at all. But beyond all of that, this is very much an all-in thing. If we look at what Mishka is aware of at the moment, he's aware that his opponent has a base and has built a supply depot. That's what we know. We know now that there's a bunker down here. But up until then, we didn't know whether there was any expansion that's actually going on, and in reality there isn't. He was just putting that bunker to maybe think about adding an expansion. We've actually got cloaking technology going on a few Banshees. We've got the Banshees going across the map. He was able to actually see them going through. Not a great path actually chosen by the Banshees. He got seen by the Stalkers, got seen by that tower, so he will be tipped off and able to get a robo facility down. But we were completely taking this blind risk. The warp gates have been done for what feels like forever now. We're not defended against anything like this. He was completely unaware that this was coming, had no idea what was in the base, what sort of build the Terran player was doing, and frankly didn't even seem all that curious about it. So now that the Banshees come in, his only reaction is kind of, I just gotta go up this ramp and see what I can get done. Not the best unit composition that we wanted here. Had to spend extra money getting the robo down, had to spend extra money getting basically getting an observer out so that he'd be able to see these cloaked Banshees. Not even done yet. He did let that finish and actually sit there for a while. It's not moving, there's no response here. Everything's kind of going down at home, but at least we did break up this ramp. Very limited resources, obviously, at this point. There's only 4 probes there for our Protoss player, but at least he's in the base. There's not much here. There's not going to be a lot of reinforcements. Be nice to get that Stalker over quickly. And finally, 2 Stalkers using basically the last of our resources to come in and try and take these Banshees out. If he was paying attention, those would be dead anyway if both Banshees had been firing. But fortunately, he is microing this force down here and trying to take care of these Stalkers that are doing a pretty good job against the SCVs. I'm actually very, very surprised at how well this relatively small force did coming up here. That's certainly where Mishka's attention was on his micro. And then getting out of there, might have wanted to take one last shot on the Hellion, but he does get away to let those shields regen. But we can see at this point, everything's looking kind of ugly. We've got this one Stalker here that probably could have been killed by the Banshee a while ago. And just barely kind of gets away there. When you do have a situation like that, the Banshee didn't know that there was necessarily detection by him. He was content to sit there killing the pylon. The Stalker came to about here and started to fire. In those cases, particularly at lower levels, the person may not know that you're about to shoot it. It's already at low health. Get right below it or stutter step towards it while firing, so that when he pulls away like that, he doesn't end up getting away with 10 hit points. This easily could have gone down with one more shot, so had we just stuttered step forward or gone right under it before attacking, now he's got a long way to go before getting out of range. So the fallout on this was eventually the Protoss player was reduced to just 4 probes, back up to 8 now, and our Terran player is down to 13 SCVs and 2 mules. In other words, the equivalent of 96 SCVs. So he's going to be able to recover a bit faster from this sort of thing. He did have an orbital command going at the time. He had intended to expand as indicated by that bunker that was there. So he's going to have double mules going on. He's going to be able to reproduce SCVs faster than this. And during that whole time, he kind of had a much larger bank. We've got like 900 gas, 400 minerals out here. The Terran player is going to recover relatively well, and the Protoss player should be aware of that. He knows that he did a lot of damage, Given how much damage he did, he's certainly justified in not just GGing out, particularly since he's in this best of 5 series here and we're at the last game. He wouldn't want to just GG out and give up in that situation. You want to see if you can recover. But what are we going to recover to? What's the plan here? He's clearly, obviously, going to get his probe count back up, so he's not planning to just immediately come back in and attack. What do we have out here? We've got 6 warp gates going on. We already have our robo down. The Twilight Council went down as well, but we're not researching anything out of that, and there's really no plan to continue along with it anywhere. Here, the observer has gone away, even though that we know that that we've got cloaked banshees around. He'd sent this observer away before the last one was done, before the next one was done. Had he not done that, maybe we could have caught that with no losses at all. But you can see this banshee, just a complete hero. He's the one that got away over to this corner a little while ago, and 14 kills on the guy and still doing a lot of damage. These photon cannons going down, I get the idea that he wants to prevent the banshees from doing any further damage, but in reality you're probably not going to be leaving your base at this point. We've got an observer out, we've got stalkers out. He's not going to come in with like 4 banshees or something at this point, given the damage he's taken. So putting these cannons down, I don't really like. It just kind of consumes a lot of resources that have to go quickly into something. At this point, you have to decide, am I going to try and get enough money up and then attack again because I've got enough facilities out? 6 gateways, I can get out a lot of stuff. I've got my robo out. I probably don't want to like tech to anything else. I either want to just go and attack very quickly, or I want to expand very quickly and tech up very quickly. So one or the other, but you don't want this system of both of, I'm going to kind of put down 300 minerals worth of passive defense and get a Twilight Council that I'm not really using, but I might use later on. And you want to kind of be getting something out of this. This might be a good instance where a warp prism is a good idea, particularly since we're kind of aware where the Terran army is. Maybe a drop in the back is going to buy you a bit of time. You're trying to buy time to get back on your feet, or you're trying to simply attack. One or the other, but you have to have a plan towards what you actually are going to do. And unfortunately, this composition kind of bouncing back and forth between what we're doing. We're getting gateway units, we're defending ourselves, we're getting an immortal out, which really isn't going to do anything to a bioforce that we are aware of. There was an observer down looking at this. We know he's established. The longer we wait, we either match his economy or we don't. But getting this expansion 8 minutes after basically mutual destruction, knowing that he had his right away, is just not a way to go. We know that we're 6-7 minutes completely behind on getting this up. We're not going to be winning any game that's going to be based on the economy at this point. We just needed to either go with the stuff that we had, or we needed to do that expansion immediately after. That should have been our priority. Probe, make no units, and get the expansion down absolutely as soon as possible. But everything that's been done here has kind of delayed that. And then finally going for the Templar archives. Really, we're off 2 gases. A second base isn't really up at all. Am I going to get Storm? Am I going to get a bunch of Archons out on the map? It's very unlikely that that seems like any way to go. We've got the Robo out there. If you wanted to tech up at all, maybe Colossus would have made more sense. It would have forced the Terran player to divert from Medivacs, force them into Vikings, which kind of makes sense given not a large, but given that we've got some stalkers out on the map, a 1 Colossus sort of attack might make some sense. But just teching too much, too slow, no direction on this, even when this is done. Haven't gotten anything out of it, because what can you do with like 1 or 2 Templar with no Storm? So finally this does come in. Decent force fields, cutting things off could be a bit better. Could have absolutely cut cut that army into pieces, but just not the type of army that we wanted to have there. There are only 2 zealots, I believe, out on the map, all stalkers. That's obviously going to lose to any bioforce that's supported by medevacs. And to kind of kick it all in, I don't know why we were starting charge there when there are only a couple of zealots out on the field. You can't get down to 4 probes at like 10 minutes into the game and then decide, well, I'm going to have a Twilight Council, use the tech, have a robo facility, and get Templar archives and expand. These things aren't compatible things together, and since we knew that the Terran army not only was there, but we had an idea from this observer that he was moving out, it was just kind of a incoherent sort of thing to do. And the probe count never really got back up to where the Terran was on SCVs. Really, the Terran probably could have been a lot higher at this point, but I think he just decided, you know, I'm 40, 50 supply ahead. I will just go pump everything else in and go take out this player. So overall here, the initial, just the initial build order, if you're going to be doing a timing, just go spend a game or 2 playing against a computer and iron out, this is the build I do, and this seems to be how I do it fastest. If I'm doing a 6-gate all-in or something, when should everything go down? My gas should clearly go down before my cyber core. I need to line things up so that my warp gate technology is done around the time I want to be using my gateways. I need to have a proxy pylon in place for around the time I want to launch that attack. You can't get everything ready and then say, okay, I'm ready soon. I'm going to go put my pylon down across the map and then gather my army down there. You want these things in a fluid motion, so what you're building has to be fluid, and the actions of your probes and your army have to be fluid so that you actually are hitting a specific timing. When you hit with those 6 warp gates, making one big warp in, that's when your attack should be happening. And if it's not, if you're warping in some at home and then building this pylon down here a little later, it's just not going to work out, and it's not going to have that hammer-like effect. You've given your opponent an extra 20, 30, 40 seconds to just get stuff out without even being aware of your attack, just to get things ready. Had that attack hit a bit earlier, then maybe instead of the Banshees making it to your base, he decided, oh, I got to pull these home to defend myself, and this entire route never even happens on the middle line. So just shows you the importance of the timing there. But the other key factor to that was going in blind to begin with. We had no idea that Banshees were coming out of there. We had no idea that there were Hellions up the ramp. It turned out to be a great composition guarding the ramp, that those bunch of Hellions aren't going to do anything to a pack of Stalkers, and it worked out reasonably well that at least we could trade off in damage. But had he been going for basically anything else, it would have failed really badly. Had there been a bunker at the front, had there been just Marine Marauder out there, had instead the 2 Banshees been 2 medevacs that were out on the field, it would have been very hard to break up that ramp. So you don't want to be doing these things blindly. And obviously, once you are behind like that, decide what you got to do. Sometimes it's a long shot. Sometimes you have to just say, I'm really, really behind. I'm going to like hide an expansion somewhere and try and make a comeback. Or I'm really, really behind. I'm going to make like 1 Colossus and go for it. Or I'm going to pull everything off gas except for like 200 gas and get charge lots and just see if I can storm them, and maybe it'll work. Just do something like that, but have a plan of what you want to do. It can't be, I'm going to do everything and hopefully he'll give me enough time to do that. He was basically dead at 10 minutes. It was amazing that the Terran decided to give him an extra 11 minutes to try and come back from this. But overall, a good game, and a pretty good end to the finals over there at Sticky Flames and Zeke.com. So anyone that does want to kind of get tournament experience, you're going to find it is a lot different than ladder play. If you haven't done it, do it, it kind of adds a little more context to what you're doing. It's not just ladder game after ladder game. You're going to see different types of strategies that you won't usually see. People will kind of be pulling things out that they don't do on the ladder. And you're going to see some better maps, things meant for more pro play and stuff. It's good to get used to that sort of thing, even when you are a low league player. And I find it just a lot more fun to know that, hey, it's Monday. I got I got a tournament coming up. I'm actually going to play in the Thursday one in just about an hour for the gold, platinum, diamond, and up sort of thing. So it's always a good time. Check them out again at stickyflames.com. And as always, Endersword, subscribe to me, of course, as well. And I hope that helps anyone out there. Thanks for watching again, guys.